sort it out again?
I think, honestly, I did last week. I did the Windows update the night before, and it just should have immediately double-checked instead of waiting for the podcast. I now know for the future, I've been trying to get on a little early each time so that I could fix stuff, but now I know, Windows did an update. I need to spend 30 minutes with making sure everything's fine.
Right, that all the settings are still what they should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird because I have the updates on, automatically, so I'm sure I have that update, and none of my stuff seems to be different. But
I think it has something to do with the Scarlett's, the little box that I have that I plug my microphone into. The Scarlett's firmware, probably. Driver is the right word I was thinking of.
It's funny you said the wrong thing, but I was thinking what you were thinking also.
So the right word is matter. Everyone knows the right word is driver.
Picking up what you're putting down.
I could just say wood. That's a golf. I did a golf thing.
I see what you did there.
That is a true dad joke there.
Oh, you want to hear a dad joke? Welcome to 167. We were. I got to say it live on the podcast. Wait, we didn't do our little check-in. Let's try that again. If you want to hear a dad joke, you have to listen to episode 167. We Were Gamers. Hello, Michael.
Hey.
Hey, JJ.
Hello.
We're back. I don't, for the first time in memory, have what I feel like is a cough that's going to interrupt the entire podcast. So, woo!
Road to wellness.
I made a great dad joke before the podcast. This isn't so much a dad joke as I've gone full dad.
Right. That was it was a golf related joke, which I feel is a very dad level activity.
Yeah. Or businessman.
Right. Extremely serious businessman or dad.
Or very bad CEO.
Yeah, trying to break the tension with the employees several rungs lower than him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dad/getting older moment. The doctor told me that I needed some indoor shoes to get rid of, a couple years ago I but I said that he was old when JJ helped me out, the Chargers tight end.
Antonio Gates, who had plantar fasciitis.
I have plantar fasciitis in both my feet, you guys.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
So I'm wearing a pair of Birkenstocks around the house.
That's bad.
It's
fine.
It's pretty much the oldest thing, the oldest man thing, the old man. It's old man. It's an old man moment.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I generally, when I stand up for long periods of time, wear shoes, at my desk and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm wearing sandals right now, which, sandals, whatever. But, it's uncomfortable to stand on the floor even for, even just a short amount of time we record this podcast. But if I'm wearing shoes, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it standing at the sink doing dishes, but the same thing.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's the other thing I have.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, I have one of those mats at work, and it's great, and I want one for my house.
Costco.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they got them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, man, this is just getting... Oof. We got to young it up. Let's talk about 34-year-older Tom Cruise.
34 years young, if you ask him, I'm sure.
34 years younger? No, I thought it was a great tie-in.
Also, isn't he 40-something?
Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise is 60, dude.
Yeah, okay.
He's way older.
That's what I thought. I was
57.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah.
We're on the page.
So that means when he made Top Gun 1, he was 23? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, that age makes sense.
Wow.
Was that one of his first roles? Big ones?
I think he did Risky Business first.
Was Risky Business before that?
Because he's super young in Risky Business.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, look, Maverick's been in the Navy longer than I've been alive. Did anybody watch the Top Gun 2 trailer?
I mean, of course I
Yes.
watched it. Also, I saw it ahead of a feature film that I watched this weekend. So,
Oh,
yeah?
what feature film?
well, no, we're talking about Top Gun 2. We'll come back around to what I watched.
The slow version of the Top Gun theme song might be my favorite thing of 2019 so far.
It's the exact thing you would do to be like, we need to nostalgia bait people. Let's make a slow, sad version of a really popular song from the 80s. What can we find? Oh, Top Gun theme song. Let's go.
Except it's actually the Top Gun trailer. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know. Man, it looks good. Actually, to me.
Hey, watching fighter jets fly around is always cool. So
It did not look super CG.
Which is nice. Right? That's the worry with them making a sequel in this day and age.
Right, because the first one was practical effects only.
Yep. I suspect there is some amount of practical effects here in that they did shoot parts of it in San Diego at
Top
Marine
Gun.
Corps Air Station Miramar, where they filmed the first one, or large parts of it anyway.
That's where the Top Gun school is, just so people know.
So they went back and did it again, which means they must have had the Marines, I guess, blessing at some level in order to do this.
Navy.
It's a Marine Corps Air Station, so I don't know.
Well,
anyway, but the Navy maybe runs I don't know. Anyway, aircraft carriers are the Navy. But the Marines are on them too. It's very confusing. I just want you to know. Anyway, so, that bodes well for them having been able to actually film real planes.
yeah.
Because they definitely have made movies like that in the past where the military's like, no, and then they just CG it and it looks not great. So, I don't know. They have a lot of explaining to do with why he's still flying a plane, I think, at his age, given that, people are out of that position, I would guess, by 30.
I like
And
that.
they hint at that in the trailer.
Oh,
right?
they don't hint at it. It's
Totally.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's the whole trailer.
Yeah, he beats it over the head.
I'm just saying that the trailer didn't do enough to convince me.
I think it's perfect casting that Ed Harris, who we, just if you need someone to be the old man to berate young-ish older men, you have to get Ed Harris, right? Like, who can talk down to Tom Cruise is what I'm saying.
Commander Erwin Hummel of The Rock. That's who.
That's right. Erwin Hummel is the only one.
Yeah. Man. It's also funny because Ed Harris now also showing his age.
Yes.
And so it's it works perfectly of he would have been the guy to talk him down when he was 23 also.
I missed
That
that
movie
in
looks
Comic-Con.
good. I don't know.
I guess this came out during Comic-Con, but as we
apparently
discussed,
he was there.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise was in Hall
he
H.
surprised everyone when they dropped the trailer.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. What movie was that? I want to know what movie that was that you watched.
Well, in an extremely...
I can guess.
Yeah, I mean, come on. In an on-brand move for myself, I went and saw the Fast and Furious Presents Hobbes and Shaw.
I kind of figured we weren't going to talk about this.
I also thought that, but you know what? Here we are.
Oh, no.
You know what? That movie was fine.
All right.
Yeah. It was dumb action in the way that you expect, and then in a way that was good, but also some in not a way that was good. So, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it.
Was it worth delaying Fast and Furious in space for?
Probably not. The Rock and Jason Statham's characters are both good characters. That movie, Jason Statham's sister, who's played by Vanessa Kirby, whose character I honestly can't remember the name of, is also pretty good in it. And Idris Elba is maybe my favorite character, which is a bad look. And all the Samoan family
is that why
is
that's
fun.
a bad look?
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Oh, okay.
The Rock's Samoan family is fun. But that entire part of the movie was like, okay, they tacked on an extra scene at the end that like they could have not had.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I like that series. It also didn't seem to be particularly busy in that movie theater. I'm just saying.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right.
I don't know. Anyway,
All
I'll
right.
still see Fast 9 because obviously it's me.
Well, I think we did it. I think we covered our multimedia requirements for the last couple weeks. It's time to talk video games. Some stuff has been happening. I've been a little busy. I've been doing a little Pokemon Go again.
Okay.
I went out to an event where there's like, I want to say a bad word, but let's say a dump truck full.
A lot
of extra spawns of a particular Pokemon, and like millions of people show up to try and catch their shiny 3-star or 4-star full stat, whatever. In contrast to the one that I talked about before on this podcast, where you go and you do the battles in the gyms for a few minutes, this one was like people invading the local area called the Spectrum here for quite a long time. Because you got to get your shiny 4-star or whatever. And it's all random, so good luck,
Yep.
Okay.
Pull that slot machine lever.
Mm-hmm. Two things came out of this. One, I don't think that this is my bag, my jam. Like, the amount of work that was to go there, and like, it's almost like the event is designed to get rid of your Pokeballs, which are, a spin the thing every 5 minutes to get Pokeballs or buy them because you're catching so much stuff. I ran out of stuff. It also felt like more like busy work than showing up and getting four cool raid Pokemon and all that stuff. No offense to the community on any of that or whatever. If you're into catching the shinies, just I don't think it's my bag. The other thing that came out of this is I now have a second phone with a second account on it.
Oh no!
What? You just magicked a phone?
Well, a long time ago, people might remember. I think we had started this podcast by then. I bent my phone in half with a hydraulic lift gate.
I remember this, but I don't know if the podcast remembers.
Oh, well. I stuck my phone in the back of a car to use it as a flashlight, forgot it was there, and closed it, and the hydraulic lift bent it in half. So this was my replacement phone that I had gotten off eBay for a couple bucks. So it's still in the house as a emergency backup sort of thing because it's not worth any money. Yep. And I thought, I could tether that to my phone. And since I had to entertain a 4-year-old for a little bit of time, she can try and catch some Pokemon. And when she's not, I can use it for trading, which is the only thing I could see why people have more than one account, Because all those things you get at those events, then you could trade to your other account and they re-roll the stats. If they're bad stats, maybe they become good stats. So I don't know where I landed at the end of this, if I'm further in the hole or not.
Speaking of phones.
I
got a new phone this past week. Well, I bought it way back we think we talked about it on the Prime Day discussion, but it finally showed up. And
Pixel 2?
It is a Pixel 3A.
3A. What is the A?
Okay. Not 3 and not 4.
So it's like a mid-tier designation? Like a faster 3?
So I think it actually might be, it's a down market version of the 3. So it's made out of like not as expensive materials and doesn't have all of the like fancy stuff that the 3 has. But then in trade, it has a bigger battery and a headphone jack.
So it's a Switch Lite.
Kind of, yeah. So anyway, the switchover process was ludicrously easy, and I really liked it. It was just wanted to say that's awesome.
What did you switch over from?
I moved it over from a Pixel 1.
That kind of I would hope that you're in ecosystem and basically the same phone. It should be easy.
Yeah. I basically just like kept clicking next, and it was just like, yeah, man, okay, cool. hey, do you want to like activate this so you can use your carrier? And I was like, yes. He goes, all right, 1 sec. All right, it's done. And I was like, wow, that was surprisingly easy. And like I went on, Verizon's website and like, yeah, it noticed that I had changed phones and there you go. That was it.
Wow.
Just move the SIM card over and I'm done.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, great. Happy that process is easier than I expected it to be.
Michael, you mentioned the Switch Lite.
Yes.
I noticed during Comic-Con I used my Switch a little bit towards the end when I was stuck in bed, and my hands were getting kind of fatigued. So this past week I found a case thing that I can put on the whole Switch when it's in handheld mode that gives it kind of like big old controller grips on the bottom of it.
Okay.
So
I've
it's like
seen pictures of this. This thing looks ridiculous.
no, it's not the big old winged one. I guess I should spend 2 seconds on the podcast getting you a picture of it. But my hands were getting kind of like tired because the Switch is very flat, and I have a concern for the Switch Lite that this is going to be a similar problem. People are going to get hand fatigue, and but it makes a lot more sense to have these types of cases for the Switch Lite because you're going to want drop protection anyway, And
yeah,
this
especially
has like
handheld.
Has that kind of like built-in TPU drop protection or whatever, so you can kind of see how this link.
Okay.
You can see it's like it doesn't stick out the sides or anything. It's directly on. It does a little bit to kind of get in your palm, but it doesn't make.
This is not the one that I have seen before. So
yeah. I've seen the one you've seen, and it's ridiculous.
Yes, this is fine.
But I definitely feel like these are gonna be these guys are gonna be raking in money once those Switch Lites come out.
Except that they won't fit because the Switch Lite is smaller.
Well, I'm sure they'll have time to readjust, Anyway, I busted out my Switch when I had this on now, finally, because it was like, you know what? That new Dragon Quest hero hit the game in Smash?
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird thing.
In what way?
I am not that into fighting games. As Smash, even a lot of the newer heroes they've added in the last 2 iterations before this, I don't really even play those heroes that much. Also, he seems really broken.
Isn't Joker like ludicrously powerful in Smash Ultimate at the moment?
It seems like the new heroes are really strong. I don't know how to play him, but I was watching some other people play him. He has a lot of moves that maybe remind me of like real fighting game kind of mechanics, maybe. He has like a power-up system of moves. It's kind of hard to describe, but like you do a move and it's like Frizz, I think is the name of it or something. And then if you power it up longer, it's Frizzap or Frizzap Papple or whatever. And the names kind of move up from there the more power you put into them. But like a fighting game, he kind of has like a mana bar or a special bar or whatever. And the higher you power up the move, the more you kind of take away from this mana bar. Also, he has like costumes, like a fighting, like MK11 has different costumes, but so instead of just changing the color of him, it changes you to different heroes of Dragon Quest. That'll drop in the new 4.0 patch, along with an online tournament mode you can use the hero in, and I mean every hero you can use. And so they're going to kind of do like these, I think they're like Friday to Sunday tournaments, and you accrue point. I don't know how the tournament mode works yet. I haven't tried it, but he might be really good. That like mechanic has never existed before in Smash. I think that's part of what makes it so strong.
They're slowly introducing real fighting game mechanics into Smash.
No, because they know the next character will, which is Banjo, right? And yes. It'll be amazing to see Banjo at EVO.
Next year, because EVO is already over now this year. But yeah, EVO was this past weekend. when you're hearing this. So I'm sure the VODs are out there, and man, there was some stuff that went down. By which I mean, if you like watching fighting games, this was like chef's kiss. Moi. So good. Basically, the world championships of fighting games is sort of how EVO bills itself, if you are not aware. And they have the finals of pretty much every fighting game that's important, or even some that aren't. And the main, I think this year they have 9 main games, like the most officially supported ones. And then they also have a bunch of other ones that are like, hey, there's enough people for a tournament here for this. Let's run a random 30-person Marvel vs. Capcom tournament, whatever. And man, there was some good games this past weekend. Did either of you two catch any?
I only caught the DBZ final there with Sonic Fox and Go One.
Goichi, yep.
Goichi. That's right. See, you can tell I don't follow fighting. I probably offended at least Goichi and some other people.
You know, people use usernames that don't always correspond to what the commentators call them.
I mean, Goichi makes a lot of sense if his name is Go and then the number 1. So I guess I maybe should have tried that. But that was pretty emotional. Sonic Fox handled the loss really well.
Yeah. Goichi continues to be the final end boss of Dragon Ball FighterZ. It seems like he wins every major tournament for that game.
Yeah, he's always right. If not winning, he's in the final.
And he and Sonic Fox have a extremely long rivalry in that game of playing, characters, matches back and forth that have just been really, really tense. That one in particular, I did not see, which is on my list to go back and watch because apparently it was very good. Sonic Fox, though, did win Mortal Kombat 11. Spoilers, I guess. I don't know who. I think he plays Aaron Black, who's like a cowboy shooter dude in that Mortal Kombat universe. And I heard that was a pretty close series. There was a couple of other games I didn't watch. I didn't watch Uniel, and I didn't watch BlazBlue Tag. I don't know much about those, but I did watch the end of Street Fighter V, which was good. I don't remember the name of the person who won. But it was a pretty good final set there. And then I watched almost all of top 8 of Tekken 7, which, holy cow, you guys. I have never seen so many close games in a top 8 ever. It was just like every round, almost every match, there was something amazing that was happening. And it was just really, really entertaining to watch. So, highly, highly recommended. The winner of Tekken 7 was this guy named Arslan Ash, who defeated who's been the guy who has been the god of that game, named Knee, like, your knee on your leg. This guy from Pakistan, Arslan Ash, is just like, he's okay in tournaments, except when he faces this guy, and then he shreds him. Which this guy shreds everyone else.
He's basically giant killer.
Yeah, and he's really great at killing this guy. So it was a really, really entertaining set for people if you want to check that out, the Tekken 7 finals. And then this year, in a change from EVO's longstanding policy of having Street Fighter last, Smash Ultimate was last.
Hey, the hero probably was not played in Smash Ultimate, I would guess.
No, yeah. I think Joker was the most recent thing they had there.
Mm-hmm.
And it, by all sounds, it was a well-played tournament. They had like 2,500 entrants or whatever. I did not see the ends of that. But it was apparently, by the internet's opinion, very good. So definitely check those out. They're on twitch.tv/Evo. I'm sure the VODs are up there, and they'll be on YouTube shortly, I'm sure.
It's weird that YouTube has become the storage of Twitch.
Well, Twitch doesn't used to have their own storage stuff, and now they don't. So people just export it to YouTube.
Strange.
Yeah, EVO also does there were a lot of cool like fighting game announcements if you're into that stuff. So basically, like all the cool games that you want there to be are announcing, new fighters or new fighting games coming out, that kind of stuff. So
sweet.
Yeah, it was a good weekend for fighting games.
Michael,
Andy,
you had a long drive.
Couple of them.
Yeah, a little bit of out of town work this weekend. Not work, but out of town. It was a little bit of work to get out of town. And to drive that far, I often listen to a podcast. Did you listen to any podcasts this weekend? I want to ask you about a particular one I'm hoping you listened to.
I did not listen to anything on the drive this weekend, but if I'm guessing correctly here, I caught up this morning with the latest episode of one that I have been enjoying season 2 of.
Wolverine, The Lost Trail.
That would be the one.
I like that. Off the top, you have led off with you enjoy it. Tell me what you enjoy about it.
So this season
is not a trap.
This season in particular, I like, and this was something that we touched on when we discussed the first season. I like how much Wolverine is a central part of the plot.
Yeah,
because last season his name was on the building, but he wasn't necessarily home.
It sure was that way, wasn't it? I think that Richard Armitage being live is better now, for sure.
Okay.
Rather than the weird, like, recordings of him through robots or whatever that was last season.
Yeah, or the phone messages that he was leaving.
Yeah. That was a little odd. This definitely ends up being more of a radio drama now than before, when it was almost like listening to I don't know, like a weird recap. Like if last time it was almost as if somebody had read The Long Night and was recapping it to you, even though there was a lot of acting and sound effects and it was very good.
Yeah.
This time around, it seems much more in the vein of like 1940s radio.
Would you say that the last one felt more like people talking about the action, and this time is more the action occurring, maybe?
Like half and half last time.
Yeah, I think there has been a little more action throughout this time. And it helps that they don't have to do as much exposition. Right? They can throw you into a story because you know the main characters, and they can sort of introduce the couple of characters that you need to know as you go along, rather than setting up, well, these are this is Wolverine, and these are the agents that are chasing after him.
Do you know the main characters other than Wolverine?
I mean, you know Pierce, although she has her role is much smaller this season compared to last season,
and also has a new voice actress.
Yes,
on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It was very confusing when they called her Agent Pierce, and I was like, why does she sound like she's from Texas? I don't know.
They did explain it, though, as part of the...
Yeah, maybe something they didn't have to do. It was definitely one of those in-universe, it made a lot of sense. So, JJ, Agent Pierce is we'll call her an android, I guess. She's a Sentinel, but an android version of a Sentinel.
Got it.
This is a spoiler for season 1, episode 3 or whatever. And this time around, because Wolverine has, probably killed her 3 or 4 times since the last time we met the characters, because they went to Japan and somewhere else, and she's failed to capture him. She's been rebooted and into new bodies or whatever, and so this time she has a Southern drawl.
We wanted a different voice actress, and here's where we ended up.
No,
although they had the original actress for a moment where the Southern accent is a character she's playing, because this season is set in New Orleans, and she breaks character at one point.
And there's like she breaks character in theory because she flashes to talking to people at Weapon X, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's odd, and I can't remember any of the characters' names now all of a sudden. like the lady that's the killing the mutants. Don't know her name. I know the villain's name of this season because I know who he is, but I don't remember his name.
Jason Wingard.
Yeah, who's Mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers for reading comic books.
Gambit, I guess I know who Gambit is. Who's been in it for like 2 minutes?
He was in it a lot more this week.
Oh, okay. I don't
know if you listened to
yet.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's an improvement to the last season, but I had a little bit of a trouble personally when they introduced his sidekick,
Marcus.
I felt like Marcus maybe is not from the South originally, because his accent has changed since the first episode. I don't know if you go back and listen. He is much more, I don't really know how to describe it. A caricature of someone living in New Orleans than I would believe someone actually living in New Orleans. Later on, when things have gotten hectic and he can't spend too much time thinking about what he has to say because he has to get his lines out fast, it sounds much more natural.
It could be a thing where like the voice directors evolved their reasoning. They're like, okay, this is a lot. We don't need him to take like extra time every time he says a line or whatever.
Yeah.
Or he's just gotten more comfortable with.
I think that might be it.
With the part.
Also, yeah.
Maybe I was just jarred by how different it is from the last season. Before I kind of got into it, when things kick off and you like start meeting some of Wolverine's friends in New Orleans and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I like maybe a little bit less about this season is I feel like there are times when they're maybe trying to be a little more ambitious about what they're conveying with the 360-degree sound, and it just gets a little confused. Like, I feel like with the first season, I had an easier time when you would just be hearing sounds coming from different directions, sort of piecing together a mental image of what was going on.
You know, I might actually be missing out then because I listened to it either in stereo headphones or on my phone, which is mono. So I bet you I'm missing stuff. I'm not getting 360-degree sound.
I will say that I generally listen to podcasts either, out of my phone speakers or through headphones, and there's no chance I would ever get that.
Yeah, I listen to mine through a Bluetooth adapter in the car. So I get the directional stuff coming through.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even known. Weird.
Cool that it's there.
Yeah, I like that it's back.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I want more radio dramas. I know that there's a lot out there, but highly produced radio dramas are few and far between. And I hope this could be a trend. I don't know if it'll pick up enough to do more than one of these for Marvel, but they certainly picked the right category, I think.
Yeah, at the very least, I hope this one continues.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm into it. And Armitage is pretty good as Wolverine. He was good last time, and now that you can hear him every episode doing Wolverine, it's actually like, nice. He's good. All right. Can you guys help me with something?
We can try.
Maybe.
No. You can't. You have to commit.
Do or do not. There is no try.
We have to take a stand. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a long time. And we need to get back on track. It's been kind of busy around here. There's some Comic-Con, a lot of video game news, and it's been hard to keep up with a regular feature on this podcast. I bought some RAM.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do a component class?
It's almost back to school time. This feels right.
Yeah, it's the right month for it.
All right, kids.
We had the summer
strap
off.
in. Time to learn.
Of course, in classic We Were Gamers style, I don't see the RAM near me. I have left it somewhere. Talk amongst yourselves.
Give us a topic.
So, Michael, speaking about RAM, have you ever had to buy RAM for a motherboard or a PC you were building?
Yes. Yeah, when this PC that I'm on now, I bought RAM for it.
Okay. So, what are the, if you had to give me some categories of things you should denote while shopping for or looking at RAM?
I think the first thing that most people probably look at is the size.
Right? You want to know how many gigabytes or whatever of the RAM you're getting?
Yep. You need to make sure if you're buying RAM for a motherboard that you are buying the right interface for whatever your motherboard will take.
Yes, very important. If you're going to buy for PCs, generally you're buying DDR and then a number.
Yes.
That's like DDR2, 3, 4. I'm sure someday there will be a 5, or maybe there already is. And that number is generally like a...
We did it. We found it.
Oh, we're back.
We did it.
Okay.
Hello.
You could. You didn't even have to say anything. We were
going.
Oh,
we were
what'd
on
you do?
topic.
You'll hear it when you play this back.
Oh, no. What did I miss?
The DDR number sort of tells you, hey, this is the kind of compatibility you can get. And that number basically just signifies, hey, this supports more speeds, faster rates, bigger sizes, those sorts of things.
It's a generational number, right? So, that each generation of DDR actually added... did we say what DDR stands for?
Double data rate.
Double data rate of normal SD RAM. So at this point, I don't know why they call it DDR because they call it DDR. It doesn't matter.
Well, because DDR is faster than regular single data rate SD RAM. Which itself is already better than regular DRAM, which is better than just regular RAM.
All right, but look, it's just an acronym that means RAM now at this point, which is maybe the best acronym in a computer.
It's a pretty good one.
RAM.
Unfortunately, DDR is conflated with a bunch of other things like a music video game.
Okay. But DDR, let's say 4, signifies also that your DDR boards have ECC technology on them, right? So each generational number tells you what new technologies you get. Did we say that they're not compatible? You can't buy DDR3 for a DDR4 board. You can't buy DDR4 for a DDR3 board.
That's what we were starting to get into.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez.
So I'm not actually clear if you can plug DDR3 or 2 into a higher board. You can plug older RAM into a higher board?
No, you can't. In fact, DDR3 and DDR4, you can't even get the board into the board. You can't even put the board in because they've moved the notch.
Oh, they changed the physical interface. That's smart.
1, 2, and 4 have the same notch, but 3 and 4 do not. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. None of them work. You buy the right one for your board.
Yes.
Boards dictate which one you get. DDR4 is currently the highest you can get for your boards that are out, although 5 should be out this year.
I was going to say, there probably is 5 that someone has, or people that spend $1 million.
They have 5 in graphics cards. You just can't get it for your board.
They actually have 6 in graphics cards
true.
now. And but at the end of the day, the stuff that you're buying for your home PC is very likely at this point to be 4, or maybe if you're buying something really high end, 5. Don't buy 3 at this point. That's the point, is that it's on its way out. It's over. Don't do it.
Yeah. Your motherboard will also tell you how much RAM it can support, which is, I think, for most boards is 64 gigabyte.
That's actually based on the DDR technology. So the DDR technology has maximums that it can support. I believe DDR3 went up to 16 gigabytes per stick. And I think 4 might support even higher than that. But it's a question then of whether the motherboard supports the maximum that the technology supports.
Correct, yeah.
So 64 sounds like a number that would be probably very normal for if you're filling all slots with max size.
Right. Did we talk about channels yet?
Nope. Channels are God, I don't even know how to start explaining this.
So your board. I did a lot of research on I said at the beginning I needed your help.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the things in a computer, RAM for some reason has the most stuff to pay attention to, and a lot of it is, does this make a difference? And most of the time the answer is no, and sometimes the answer is it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, so there's before we talk about channels, actually, a number that's more important than channels, I would say, is the actual like speed of the RAM. You can get it'll basically be like DDR4 dash some number, right? 2400, 3200,
right.
6500, whatever the number is. And basically, the higher the number, the faster the RAM. You would think that. Also, you have to check to make sure your motherboard supports that number as well.
That's what I was going to say. It's also the first part of overclocking RAM as well. But people should look this up. DDR4 especially, there are many, many diminishing returns beyond what JJ is describing as the megahertz of the RAM. And 2666 is the basically like beginning of the end of linear gains on speed when you add more and more megahertz. So that's actually
beyond
where
that there's incremental improvement, but it's not really worth it to buy faster RAM.
That's actually where I topped out the RAM that I bought. I bought 2666. Technically, I could overclock it, I guess, beyond that in terms of megahertz, but I won't. It's not worth the energy and time because then you have to talk about voltage.
And I will say that in general, I have never bothered to overclock RAM because the performance gains are
minuscule.
They're not big, and generally that's not the problem in your system anyway.
Right.
You're getting bound by CPU or GPU depending on what thing you're playing. So RAM is generally never the problem.
Yeah. So probably don't need to worry about voltage. Just make sure the voltage is the same that your board says.
Yeah, the memory technology actually even determines the voltage because the older technologies use higher levels of voltage and the newer ones lower to save power because it turns out lower voltage, less power, right? That's how the equation works.
Yep. Something else you'll see maybe on your RAM box, since we're still talking about that, would be timings. And this I do not understand at all.
So basically the way the DDR technology works is they took a regular RAM, which used to only work on, there's the whole thing about SDRAM is there's a master clock, right? It's basically the signal that goes like, hey, everyone, follow the time that I say, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? And regular SDRAM goes, when it goes up, we do stuff, and then we wait until it goes up again to do stuff. Well, the people who made the DDR technology are like, what if we do stuff on the up and the down? That's double the speed.
Ooh.
DDR, right? Double data rate. So in order to accomplish that, they had to do some fancy computer trickery stuff, basically where they're like preloading certain values and making a lot of guesses about where they think you're going to go and what data you're going to grab. And it essentially allows you to double your throughput. As a consequence of that, they have all these like different ways you can adjust how they prefetch and how they time the accesses to the various rows and columns. Because if you open one of these sticks up, you take the shielding off or whatever, there's basically a bunch of individual discrete chips in there, and the chips are sort of subdivided into like rows and columns of miniature chips inside the chips. And there's all these kinds of arcane and interesting schemes you can use to access them. It's like, oh, well, you can get a little bit faster timing from these if you move this one over here, and instead of doing a 2-2-5-3, you do a 2-4-3 whatever, and like you can access some stuff faster.
Right there. That's where I lose it, is when you say whatever.
and it does not matter. It is, if you are looking for the absolute top performance to be the number one guy on the highest benchmark on the internet or whatever, first off, you better have like $1 million and like some liquid cooled nitrogen or something.
Dude, RAM is so expensive.
But if you want to do that kind of stuff, it super does not matter. But it is available there for if you really, really want to get down weeds. But in general, I would say do not bother.
So that's kind of it when you get into the numbers that are on the box for RAM, right? Like the gigabytes of it. Did we talk about the gigabytes of? No, we didn't talk. Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, that's how big it is.
How big it is. How much stuff it can process, right? Like at a time.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's the total amount of data it can hold.
Right. Come in sticks.
Yep.
And the sticks are all different sizes.
Okay. So now we got to talk about the channel stuff.
Now we got to, yeah. So I was trying to trying to make sure we'd finished the RAM box before we got to the motherboard and channels.
So I think when we talked about motherboards, we very specifically said we would ignore this and talk about this now. So we get to talk about this now. When you set your RAM into a motherboard, there's a specific way that you need to do it in order to get the maximum throughput from the RAM.
And a certain amount of cards or RAM sticks to put in as well for that.
Yes.
Depending on how many RAM slots you have.
And all of this goes back to the way, like I talked about how they sort of capitalized on this like up and down motion of that clock. It really wants multiples of 2. It does not want it to be an odd number, just for this weird quirk of the technology. So when you buy these RAMs packages online, you will typically buy them in sets of 2.
Yeah.
They do not often sell them in single sticks. It's possible, but it's rare, I feel.
Laptops, maybe single sticks sometimes.
Possibly, yeah. Laptops, by the way, use very similar technology to this. I think it has like an L in front of it or an M in front of it. But the underlying technology is the same.
Well, a lot of laptops now, stuff is soldered on.
Yeah, so it's usually not. Laptops generally are not as easily replaceable as your home built PC would be.
Man. This just thinking of the years and years that I would upgrade my laptops by doing my own RAM, and now you just can't touch the inside of a laptop anymore. You can maybe change the battery yourself if you're really good.
You know, a RAM upgrade actually it used to be one of the cheaper things you could do, but now is generally not as easy because the technologies keep evolving, and you don't get a lot by just adding more RAM. Other than the ability sometimes to keep like more windows open at once, which I tend to find is not a good thing to encourage. But you know, your mileage may vary.
Some very specific professions get a lot out of RAM. People working in the digital arts or doing special effects, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, audiovisual stuff in general. Yeah,
they get a lot out of it because they can keep more things moving faster.
So back to the channels, you always want to be doing 2s, and if you have multiples of, generally your motherboard will have a multiple of 2 slots for RAM. So if you have 4 slots, you want to do 2, but it's a specific 2. It's the 2 that are linked together, and typically most motherboards will color code them for you, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
So make sure you're putting them in the ones that go together.
But also put them in the ones that say, if you only have 2 sticks, put them in, the black ones or the silver ones. Because there is in theory, faster set of channels for when you have less sticks. So if you're planning to do X amount of RAM, sometimes if that amount of RAM is within... So let's say your board can support 64, but right now I don't need more than 32, right? I bought 32 in the theory that because I don't currently need more than that, and it allows me to go up to 64 if I want to later, because I then could buy 2 more sticks and get up to 32 again. It would be, my RAM will perform slightly faster by having those 2 sticks instead of 4 sticks when getting to 32. Does that make sense?
Right. Buy the least number of sticks to get to the number you want.
Even though sometimes it's cheaper, right? Like, so 4 sticks of 8 to get to 32 is cheaper than 2 sticks of 16. But performance-wise...
It could be, yeah.
But performance-wise, 2 sticks of 16 is better than 4 sticks of 8.
And of course, there's always caveats, but like generally, that's the rule of thumb, right?
Yeah.
So if you can do it with 2 sticks, do that. And it's within your budget or whatever. If you want to just have more, do it in, fit as much as you can in 4. That's great. Your 4 sticks will perform very slightly worse than a person who has the same amount in just 2 sticks.
But not so much that the average person is going to notice.
Yeah, you're probably not going to care.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, have you ever noticed a RAM slowdown in your computer or something?
No.
JJ?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You notice when your computer has like not nearly enough RAM and basically no other time.
I haven't noticed it in about 10 years. I used to notice it when running Photoshop on laptops.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're running like Photoshop a bunch and doing big files with it, then that would be a case where you might go like, oh, if I had like 8 more gigs, this would matter. But
yeah.
Like, is it time to say what I bought? I think it's time to say what I bought.
Yeah.
I bought Crucial Ballistics Sport. I think they're LTs. Kind of doesn't matter what they are. I bought a 32 pack of 216s, DDR4 2666, with 16 on latency.
Okay.
Because 15 was triple the price.
Oh.
Yeah, so the latency stuff is like the lower the latency, the better, right?
Yeah.
And the gains are hard. And so, yeah, you're going to pay a lot more for the lower latency stuff.
And I finally found it on sale for sub 150, which is what it's going at now. I found it for around 99 for only like a week. So that had been a sticking point in our build here of a new PC for me for quite a while, because I was unwilling to pay $150 for RAM. It's almost more than the CPU.
Yeah, I don't know when this happened. It's very confusing to me, but at some point they changed. RAM used to be really inexpensive. It was like a cheap and easy upgrade you could do. This is maybe back in like the
Crucial built a business on this.
Pentium 2, Pentium 3, Pentium 4, like just the early Core 2 Intel days. And RAM was like, it was like $50 for like, 8 extra gigs or whatever. It was no big deal. And then, man, I don't know when they flipped this around and RAM got super expensive. And it is now one of the things that's going to compete with, it was like getting a hard drive was like pulling teeth and RAM was falling from the sky. It is the opposite now. You can buy 50 hard drives for the price of RAM.
Yeah, space is cheap.
Yeah.
I don't know when that happened either, because in theory, a lot of this stuff is now very similar components and technologies. And so if you had a shortage of RAM, you'd probably also run into kind of the same problem with solid state drives, no?
No.
Really?
Solid state drives are using flash memory, which is not the same as SD RAM because it has to be able to keep the state when the power is off.
Yes. But the component wise, like what you use to make this stuff.
It's a different technology. The chips aren't the same. The like idea of the circuitry is similar, but it's not. Like they're not made by the same plant, which I assume is they've converted that plant to make way less DDR RAM and way more flash drives.
I was figuring that the bottleneck might just be resources.
I mean, maybe they're using it to make more hard drives and not as much DDR RAM. Could be.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Was that it was a theory? I don't know the answer for why this has happened, but like, it seems like it was directly correlated to like, hey, why don't we make these flash drives, a lot of them, so that they're super cheap all of a sudden after people like us spent hundreds of dollars getting them because we wanted our computers to boot in under 4.5 minutes.
Those are the days. Go make yourself some popcorn and come back.
Oh my God. And now you can't buy RAM.
Yeah.
Another part of it might be I have not upgraded the RAM in my current PC since purchasing it originally, and I had intended to along the way, and now I'm in the midst of another PC build and not looking back at that DDR3 to put more in it.
Yeah, same. I actually, when I bought this PC, and did the build. The motherboard I was reusing from a different PC because it was still had a processor that was good enough, and I was just changing the case and video card and some stuff. So I am also still using DDR3, and maybe I would be singing a different tune if I was using the faster and lower voltage DDR4.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if DDR4 has a good lifespan with DDR5 coming out. Did we talk about what RAM actually? You guys probably already did that at the top while I was looking for the box.
I guess we didn't say that RAM is random access memory, which is basically the holding place for all the data on your computer that is not stored on a hard drive, right? The thing to know about computers is every time you move farther away from the CPU itself, everything gets slower. So there's a little tiny little bit of memory on the CPU that is the absolute fastest memory. It's like within one computer clock cycle access or something like that. Ludicrously fast, but it's tiny. Absolutely teeny tiny. Anytime it's looking for a piece of data that isn't stored there, it has to go out to the next fastest thing, which is going to be your cache, which is also built into the chip. That's a little bit slower, but yeah, still relatively fast in the scheme of things.
Also now, in the scheme of things, minuscule, 32 megabytes?
Yeah, it's very, very small. And if it can't find it there, it's going to go out to the RAM. The access times to RAM are denoted by those latency numbers generally, and those are basically eternities in the clock time of your CPU, right? If you think about how many megahertz your clock has, flip that number 1 over that, and that's how much time occurs in between every tick. And it's basically, if you have to wait 15, even nanoseconds when your computer is running at 5 gigahertz or whatever, that's a lot of time to count that long. So it essentially has to wait all that time to get it from the RAM. And if it can't find it in the RAM, it has to go get it from either your solid state drive or your spinning hard disk or wherever it is. And the access times for that is even worse, generally in the millisecond range.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about virtual RAM.
Yeah, and so it basically the RAM, the CPU in its wisdom takes all the data it thinks you're going to need and moves it into the fastest location possible. It does all this process of caching stuff out of the slowest drive into the RAM, which is faster, and then out of the RAM into the cache, and into the cache and onto the CPU. And this whole process is all managed by a bunch of other chips and stuff while the CPU is going on doing whatever it's supposed to be doing. It's frankly amazing that any of it works.
And now that everyone's asleep,
it's almost time for football.
Yeah. Oh man.
It is. That's true.
Dude, it is almost time for football.
Yeah, I think I saw someone post that this past weekend, maybe the weekend before, was the last Saturday until February without some kind of football going on.
What are we going to do for football season on this podcast now that we're live and discussing it in front of everyone? Are we going to talk football on it? We could do that a little bit, right? Maybe at the end.
I liked our ending segment of football
segments.
just for the people who want to stick around for it.
All right.
Yeah. I suspect that I will still play a little bit of fantasy football this year, so I'll have that to talk about if we want.
Yeah, I think my family league is going to get started again.
Sweet. All right. Well, if you want to tell us anything we got wrong about RAM or convince us to talk about more fantasy football,
you can email me directly at podcast@wewergamers.com. So hit that up. I will absolutely listen to your corrections and or emails about how we should talk about more fantasy football.
Oh, hey, don't push your RAM really hard into the board.
Oh, yeah. It's got a little clip on there. It lets you know.
Pressure. It'll
Gentle,
click.
even pressure until you hear a very light click.
Yeah, and the little thing on the end will snap back into place and tell you that you're good.
Yep. If the clips are in place on the RAM, you're done.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're Gamers on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can find the other component classes there. Since it's been a while and it might be hard to find them otherwise, you can look. There's a little playlist.
A refresher course.
There's a little playlist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great resource there. And our Facebook and our Instagram. We're on there also.
We were gamers.